Okay, so maybe just pay attention, whatever it is, what it is. So you've got a telephone pole supported by two wires. Those are called guy wires as well on either side. So you should have a pole and it's supported by wires, right? Like this. We're not going to assume that it goes right to the top, right? Like, don't make that assumption. Usually that's not the case. So it's, but we are assuming they're touching up here, and we know that the angle of elevation is 35 and 60. So that should be there. That's for our sketching part. And they're 15. They're anchored, right? Anchoring means where they get really implanted into the ground there. So that's 15 feet apart. Are you saying it's not drawn to scale?
No. I thought that the wire and the pole were the same because it says assume that the wires are connected at the same height.
They are connected up here at the same height. You know what I mean? Because you could have a scenario where one wire is like this, the other wire is like that, right? And then you would be in trouble, right? Then you couldn't treat it like this. So I'm trying to be specific in that sense. So if you have this, you get a mark. So this would be if you have everything where it belongs, you get a mark for that. And sometimes if your graph is off, you lose the mark, but then you still get the work for what follows, unless your mistake causes it to be a lot easier to solve. Like if you making a mistake makes it like a 1-step instead of a 2-step, then you lose more marks down the road because you're missing some work there. Calculate the length of each wire. So we can do, you got to ignore this for now. You got to find that one. Okay. That one is 85 degrees. You've got your pair. So remember, we always have multiple triangles. You want to focus, like if you're using 85 with this 15, then it's the entire angle with the entire side here. Okay, so don't mix up right triangles and oblique triangles. So sine of 85, I'll give you a mark for that. Okay, well, if the 85 shows up, because that is an important step. So you go 85 over 15, and you got to watch out. You can call this wire 1, wire 2, or XY, whatever you want to do. So this would be, if I'm trying to find wire 1, I'd have to go sine of 60 over wire 1. And wire 1 would be 15 times sine of 60 divided by sine of 85. Wire 1 is 13.04. If I use sine of 60, 13.04, that's what I have. Yeah, let me break this down for you today. So the 85 gets a mark. You get a mark for setup and a mark for the work. Okay. And then I'll try to do wire 2 here. I'll use the same pair over 15. And then it's sine of 60. No, sorry, sine of 35 over wire 2. Wire 2 is 15 times sine of 35 divided by sine of 85. Wire 2 is 8.64 feet. Again, for this one, I'll give you 1 mark for setup, 1 mark for the correct work. So obviously there's going to be a lot more to B than just 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 plus the 1 mark for the angle. So B ends up being out of 5. Just to make it a little easier, instead of going half mark, we'll just do full marks for each step. Okay, so 1 for the 85, if that shows up. Even if you didn't put it on your triangle, if it shows up here, I'm assuming you used it, right? You used sum of triangle. And so it's paired up. So let's say you got this all wrong, then maybe the first wire you lose the marks there, but I would still then give you marks for the second wire if you're consistent with your work. Okay? C, determine the height at which the wires are connected on the pole. So we want to know this, the height here. Where are they connected? So that's height if you ask me. So you can have, you can go wire 1 times sine of 35 is one way to go about it. That would be 13.04 times sine of 35, and you should get 7.48. And of course, if you made a mistake on wire 1 up here, I see you using that here. Whatever you get, you still get the mark, okay? So it's not like you're going to lose this mark because you don't have 7.48. Because we're always worried, concerned with the steps. Are you showing us you know what's supposed to be done? Okay, so 1 mark there. All right, so we've got a total of 7 on this page. 7 marks. And the reason I leave so much space for these ones is so that you can make corrections. Okay, so that you can actually, because I want to hand these back and then you can actually see what went wrong or what did you get right. So let's go to the back side. I didn't want you to solve this, so we're going out scouting, standing on top of a cliff, overlooking a swamp. From the cliff, you spot some geese at an angle of depression of 50. Okay, so the geese are at an angle of depression of 50 degrees. And about 100 yards behind the geese. So imagine this is the pond, right? 100 yards behind the geese. Notice there's some beavers at an angle of depression of 30. They're both located to the right side of where he's standing. I'm trying to be specific. So let's try to sketch this. Angle of depression, we're looking down for sure. So let's imagine, right, this is me, and I'm overlooking, and I'm looking at some geese here. And so I have my horizontal and the line of sight going here. That is 50 right there. This is supposed to be 50 degrees. And then 100 yards behind are some beavers. Okay? And so I'm still looking at that, right? I'm looking at that point right there. This angle right here is supposed to be 30. Okay, so the idea is if you look at this, it should make sense, right? 50, they're closer. 100 yards behind the geese, you've got the beavers there. So is this all? Is this all that is mentioned? Yes. So I would say already you get 2 marks in my books. Okay, in my books you get 2 marks for that. But it is good practice to go 50, right? To fill this in 30. And since this is 150, then this is what? 130. So 130 and 30 is 160. So this should be 20, correct? So it's like a ripple effect. You could have also gone 50 minus 30 to get the 20, whatever works for you. You don't have to have the things in red. Today we're just going to say if you had everything else right, you get 2 marks for that. That's it. Solving, maybe we'll do it at a different time. Maybe you can do it on your own if you get it back. Do you want the answers? I'll put the answers there if you get this back. Force B, distance between Mr. D and the geese, that is 146.19 yards. So you might want to write this down. C, what are we talking about there? Using cosine law, calculate the direct distance between Mr. D and the beavers. That is 223.98 yards. So write that down so you have it. And then the height of the cliff, you may use this slant times sine of 50, or you may use this slant times sine of 30, whichever one works for you. And that would be 111.99 yards, if you got that. And if you actually did that today and you got those numbers, you're doing well. Okay. Next, let's go down to this part right here, largest angle. So you see that this is an SSS scenario, X, Y, Z. So this is 3 This is 5, this is 7, and this is the largest angle because it's across the longest side. Okay, so cosine of z would be 5 squared plus 3 squared minus 7 squared, 2 times 5 times 3. I'm maybe gonna skip this part. You get 0. Is it a negative, right? Negative 0.5. And so angle Z is cosine inverse of negative. What does the negative mean? Obtuse angle. It will be bigger than 90. Good job. 120 degrees for that. And I hope you didn't solve for every single angle, because that would be a lot of work for 2 marks. Is it wrong? It's not wrong. So just get into that habit of checking the largest angle and then longest side, and then the largest angles across from it. So 2 marks, 1 mark for setup, I would say, and 1 mark for work and correct answer. If you drop the negative, I would take off a full mark. If it's like if it's not even there, I would take off a full mark. You would get 60 degrees if the negative wasn't there. Okay. All right, that's it.